Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Lyons, and I'm co-creator of the Disciplined Agile Toolkit with Scott Ambler and Vice President of DA at the Project Management Institute. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm going to take you quickly through an overview of what Disciplined Agile is, what we're seeing out there in the industry, and how DA can help you to be much more successful on your Agile or hybrid initiatives. So it's been 20 years since the writing of the Agile Manifesto, and I think a lot of executives are asking, are we there yet? Are we all Agile? Are we getting the benefits that were promised to us? And unfortunately, the data shows that we're not doing very well. This independent survey of 1,500 plus Agile teams showed that a typical improvement for a basic Agile method like Scrum yields us an improvement of roughly 7 to 12% on average. And if you look at Agile scaling frameworks such as SAFe or LESS, you're looking at a 3 to 5% improvement on average. And I would suggest to you that's a bit underwhelming. And certainly, I don't think in many cases we've delivered the results that we promised our stakeholders. So 20 years on, I think it's worthwhile asking and reflecting on, why are we still struggling? Why are we still arguing about my version of Agile versus your version? And why aren't we getting the success and truly delighting our stakeholders and our customers? Well, from my perspective, it's fairly clear why many, if not most, Agile initiatives struggle. And DA can actually help solve these problems and help you to become more effective in 3 different ways. In the first way, we need to understand, we need to recognize that the typical Agile team is inadequately skilled to truly optimize its ways of working. Certainly, there's some great teams out there, but in my experience, so many teams just have not invested enough in learning about the options that are available to them to truly optimize their performance. So individual skills. And secondly, teams and organizations are often locked into some method or framework, and they're following all the advice that it offers, and yet they're still not improving anymore. They've sort of plateaued and they don't know how to go to the next level. And lastly, we often see organizations' ability to deliver value to customers is impeded by ineffective value streams. And if you're not sure what value streams are, towards the end of this presentation, I'll give you an idea about what I mean here. So first of all, the toolkit, what is it? It's the world's most comprehensive Agile body of knowledge, to be short about it. Nobody else has read 100 books like Scott and I have and pulled all these techniques into one catalog, one library of easy referenceable ideas that you could use to improve your Agile ways of working. So it's a comprehensive toolkit. Now, before I get into the details and show you some examples, I want to just overview at a high level the DA mindset. And I don't have time to go into this in detail. It could be the subject of an entire presentation. But we have principles, promises, and guidelines. And the one thing you should understand about DA and how it can make you more effective is that it's agnostic. It works with everything. It makes any type of approach better. So by learning how to choose your way of working, you're going to delight your customers. By becoming happy, productive teams, you're going to deliver more value. You're going to delight your customers. And part of the supporting principles would be to understand that context counts. We need to be able to adjust the ways of working depending on the kind of situation you're in. If you're building a simple website, your level of agility is going to be quite different than if you're building a large application around enforcement of government regulations or banking regulatory environments. So flexibility is really required. Context counts. And we need to be pragmatic and recognize that not everything in Agile is black or white. And this is one of the unfortunate aspects of the Agile community, is that people are very opinionated about this is Agile and this is not. And as an example, estimating. A lot of people are arguing about whether or not estimating is a complete waste of time or whether it's unprofessional not to do estimating. And what we would say to you is, well, it depends. Context counts. Some situations, estimating is a waste. And in other cases, it would be irresponsible not to do estimating. So moving on to promises, I like the very first one here: create psychological safety and embrace diversity. And if I look over to the guidelines, I love creating effective environments that foster joy. If your teams aren't happier doing Agile, then you're not doing it right, because your team should be happier, not just in IT, but outside of IT, your finance, your enterprise architecture, your release management, your PMOs, they should all be happier in an Agile world. Why? Because we focus on activities that create value and eliminating wasteful activities that do not. Nobody wants to spend their time doing wasteful activities. So yes, everybody should be happier. And this is the new role for management, is to be leaders, not so much managers, to provide environments that do foster joy. And in related comment right after this is change the culture by improving the system. Often you have great people, but they're stuck in a bad system. So leadership should be focusing on creating and improving the culture, improving the system, rather than trying to change individuals. Now, the scope of DA, it's really important to understand that it goes far beyond IT. That's where it started, as disciplined agile delivery and DevOps, but it's more, of course, true agility is far more than IT. So what we see here at the bottom is the foundational aspects of DA that's applicable throughout the organization. And I just talked about principles, promises, and guidelines. And then we have an IT level layer called discipline DevOps. And I also provide guidance outside of IT in areas like portfolio management, product management, and going further higher up yet into areas like vendor management and people management, or what a lot of people call HR. Those groups need to be agile as well. And I'll talk more about that towards the end of this presentation. So first of all, three things I'd like to talk about related to the problems that DA can solve. And the first one is about skills and learning. You need to we all need to supercharge our skills. And you could think about skills like ingredients in a marketplace. And I don't know what half of these ingredients are, but boy, if I did, I could become a great chef. And that's kind of the same idea in your process improvement initiatives and trying to be as agile as you can. If you don't know what options are available to you in the areas of requirements and testing and estimating and different types of agile methods, you're not going to be as effective as you can be. So the most important aspect to all of this is to learn more, learn what the ingredients are available to you, that you can cherry pick the ones that make sense for you and plug it into whatever method you're currently using. So this is the idea of ingredients, and a method might be a recipe. So if you know Scrum, you see Scrum on the right-hand side here. This is the Scrum guide. It's 13 pages. Not a lot of guidance. It's great guidance. It's wonderful stuff. But folks, 13 pages isn't enough to really help us understand how to get the job done. And this is where we have to rely on other kinds of skills. And that's what the Choose Your Wow body of knowledge is all about. It's a very rich toolkit so that you can supplement things like user stories that you would use for agile requirements with other techniques. And I'll show you an example of that right away. So knowledge is power. Knowledge is what makes us more successful. People are asking me, I don't understand the value proposition of DA. It's very, very simple, actually. What's the value proposition of a PMP, project management professional? Well, I become a better project manager. So I increase my odds of delivering on time, on budget, managing my risks, and delighting my customers. If I'm truly skilled as a project manager, that my odds go up tremendously. And this is the value of the PMP. It's the very same thing with the DA toolkit. Agile is just another way of delivering initiatives. It's another style of project management, if you will. Only the team owns the process rather than the project manager. And it should be obvious that if I learn more skills, then our team is going to be more successful. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, a typical Agile certification doesn't cover all the great ideas, all the great ingredients that you can use to be more successful. On the left-hand side here, I talk about risk management and lean governance. A typical Agile course does not talk about risk management. Yet I would suggest to you, risk management is just as important in a Scrum team as it is on a traditional project. So that's baked into DA. We teach you lightweight ways to do risk management and to do governance and some of these other ideas. And on the right-hand side, where you might learn about one technique to manage requirements in an Agile project, something like user stories, we have 53 different techniques in the toolkit, because you're going to want to supplement a few sentences that a story is with maybe some diagrams, some pictures, or maybe some other textual types of requirements. So it's a very, very rich set of techniques. And people say to me, oh, Mark, I couldn't possibly understand all these techniques, and it sounds too difficult to me. I want you to know it's not that hard. They're very easily organized into what you see here as a set of goals that you'll have on any kind of project or initiative. You'll need a team, you'll need funding, you want to explore the scope. And by double clicking on these goals, that's where you find the text, or sorry, the techniques, the practices. Really not hard to use the toolkit. Think of it as a reference. You don't have to understand everything in it. You don't have to memorize it for the certification. You just have to know where to go to find answers so that you can customize your ways of working in a situation that you find yourself in. So let's take a look at one here, explore scope. Double clicking on that, you would see an explore scope goal diagram. And here we have the different techniques grouped into different areas, if you will, what we call decision points. And in those decision points, the ones that are bolded or italicized means that if you're going to select a technique from this particular category, the ones that are bold or italicized are typically good ones to start with, like default choices. And if you see some of them have arrows beside them, and that means that typically the choices at the top of the list are better than the choices at the bottom. So this helps you make better decisions and to try to be as agile as you can be for your situation. I'll give you an example here. This is inside the body of knowledge, the toolkit. We have a definition for each of these things, references to where you can find more information. And then on the right-hand side, trade-offs. So it's more than just the Wikipedia of Agile. We actually give you contextual advice to say which techniques work in different situations. And I hope you can see that this is going to be make you more effective on your team. If you're struggling with testing or requirements or estimating, you probably don't know some great ideas that can help you be more effective and have more joy because you'll be more effective. This is what the toolkit is. And personas are a good example. A lot of people have never heard of personas, and they can be a very useful technique. We use them at PMI, by the way, within our DA product team, to better understand our stakeholders so that we can build better experiences for them. So lots of great techniques. So those techniques would be the ingredients, and life cycles or methods. You could consider them to be starter recipes. So if you're already doing something, you're already doing Scrum, that's great, because DA doesn't want you to stop doing Scrum if you're happy with it, but it can help you be more effective with it by supplementing what you learn in Scrum with other ideas. Or maybe you want to move from Scrum to Lean. So there's a life cycle for that, and which is a different way of working than a Scrum way of life cycle. And because we're agnostic, we don't get into these wars that one method is better than the other, because in any organization of any size, you're going to be using a variety of approaches. So it's really nice to have choice. I wanted to show you that in addition to the book being available as a PDF free to all PMI members, it's now also available online. And I'm just going to show you quickly. I actually have it open already in another tab here. And this is what I just showed you, available in an electronic version. And as an example, secure funding. And then if you click on any of the decision points, you'll see at the bottom here that the different options come up. If you're planning out a particular Agile release or project, well, how am I going to do estimating? Well, you normally in a Scrum course learn about one way of estimating with relative points called planning poker. And you can see that right here. Well, we would suggest to you that's just one way of estimating. There's many ways of estimating, and some are better than others. And we also, what makes this even better than the book is that we actually have references. Let's see here to these different things. So additional resources. If I want to go off here, well, then it will take me to more information in this particular example, estimating. Okay, so it's even better than the book because it's got links out to other material. Okay, so if I go back to the presentation here, let's see, check time here. So teams should choose their own life cycle or method. And you might be using one already, or if you're not new to Agile, then you probably want to pick one of these. So we have two that are based on Scrum, We have two that are based on lean or Kanban, and we have some are based better for projects, and some are better for product approaches. So there's a big movement out there. A lot of organizations are taking more of a product-based approach, at least in their IT departments. And we have life cycles that are more suitable to the product-based approach, and then we have some that are suitable to projects. So it's nice to have both. We have an exploratory approach for exploring a market with a small investment before committing to a larger project based on something called the lean startup. We also have a program approach, which is many teams building one solution, similar to something you might have heard of called SAFe. So choice is good, context is counts. It's nice to be able to pick from one of these starter recipes, if you will, and then improve from there. So importance of learning skills is the most important thing. And then once we've learned the skills, we're in a position now to really optimize our ways of working. And looking, at the past 20 years, spilled my water, looking at the last 20 years since the Agile Manifesto and what's coming, I see a movement for organizations doing less following of pre-existing methods, maybe starting with them, but then evolving to a way of working that makes sense for them that might not be called Scrum, it might be called something else. And so these are the questions I asked executives is what organizations do you fear and which ones do you respect? And usually the ones that you respect and fear are the ones that are indeed doing this. They're customizing their own ways of working. And Spotify is a great example. They created a way of working for a Swedish online music company that makes sense for them. Now, the unfortunate thing is people then start to copy it. And that's not good because that way of working, unless you're a Swedish online music company, might not be completely suitable for you. But if you want to start with Spotify, that's great. But just recognize that that's just the beginning. That's not the end. You need to evolve from there. So that's kind of what in the interest of time, we'll move on. But I'm saying don't copy them. Become your own Spotify. Become a leader. And you do that when you've learned how to customize your ways of working. So often organizations, their improvements level off after they've exhausted all the guidance that the framework has provided. And they will continue to get better through retrospectives and things with continuous improvement. But a better way and a faster way to improve is to use the context-based advice that you find in the toolkit so that you have fewer failed experiments. You'll fail less and you'll succeed earlier. You get results quicker. So this is this idea of not just continuous improvement, but guided continuous improvement using the toolkit. And the nice thing is it's not disruptive. You don't have to stop what you're currently doing. This is not a don't do Scrum, do DA. It's do Scrum Plus or Lean Plus or Spotify Plus or SAFe Plus. That's what we're talking about here. And there's different transformation patterns here. But the key point is start where you are, understand where you are, and then decide how you want to evolve from there. Maybe you're using SAFe and you want to continue to evolve. Maybe you're using Scrum and you want to continue to evolve. And then lastly, understanding how to learn. We like to say DA helps you get better at getting better. It's not just about Agile. It's about understanding continuous improvement. And we're kind of the Switzerland of methods. We don't get into the wars fighting about my method is better than your method. We sit in the middle and we supplement any technique that you're currently using. And lastly, I want to talk about accelerating the delivery of value, more value, delighting your customers. And what we see in organizations is we need to understand that delivery teams don't work in isolation. We have to work with other areas of the organization to be effective. And we constantly see in organizations where they have really good Agile teams, in software and IT, and yet they are not delivering value as quickly as they can because they're impeded by other areas of the organization. And it's not those areas' fault. It's just nobody has spent time with them to teach them new ways of working as well. This is really important, is that they're very smart people. They're just using techniques that have been around for a long, long time, but aren't particularly Agile. We need to spend time with them to help them to become Agile themselves. And I'll give you a few examples here. You may have seen this. Finance might say, your funding runs out next month. I need you to create a business case, a project plan with estimates, have it reviewed by the PMO before I can extend your funding for another 3 months. Clearly, this is not Agile. And the team is going to say, but that means my teams will need to stop for several weeks to do this planning. They will be producing no value during this time. So they become very frustrated. I urgently need a new developer for my team. And HR says, you will need funding approved by finance, a requisition filled out, internally posted for 2 weeks before interviews can even start. So the poor team is going to be without somebody for 3 months. And I see this one quite a bit. A team lead says, I have 3 new features ready to ship that our customers urgently need. And release management says, these need to be prioritized and approved at our change management meeting. They can then be added to our month-end release. So in this particular company, they're limited to monthly releases. Meanwhile, the competition is putting out a new feature every day. So this is, and of course, these kinds of things can be fixed with Agile DevOps practices. So this is really important, is that most agility implementations just focus on IT and not improving the entire organization. And I got a couple more examples here, but I think you get the idea. So DA teaches, this is where DA is like Scrum Plus, goes far beyond Scrum. We teach teams how to accelerate value delivery by incrementally helping the functional areas to become Agiles themselves. And speaking of value streams, I talked about that at the beginning of this presentation. Value streams are, as they say in Twitter, trending. Everybody has come to understand that we need to understand the end-to-end delivery of value to customer. Only some of that is IT. Some of it is business processes. And there are many places in a value stream between the time that I order a pizza and I'm eating the pizza that things can go wrong. It can be the wrong pizza. It could take too long. It could get cold. It could not take my credit card. The mobile app might be really, really poor. There are many opportunities for that value stream to be inefficient and ineffective. And what we teach in our value stream consultant workshop is how to look at the system as a whole and look for areas to unclog those pipes, if you will, so that we can get more value flowing to our business and to our customers, pardon me, and this is how we win. This is right. So this comes down to, I'm just going to finish off here with a quick overview of the DA certifications. As I look at my spilled water, I need to clean up after the presentation. We designed the Scrum Master, our certifications around Scrum Master, and we're thinking we might tweak it, but the rationale behind it was that we see hiring managers looking to differentiate the million Scrum Masters out there from ones that really have invested in learning and have the experience. And that's what the DA certifications are all about. And you could see, there's actually an advertisement I saw where I live here in Calgary, Canada, where the hiring manager was absolutely looking for a senior Scrum Master. That was what they're looking for. And I was also very pleased to say that they were looking for people who understood the DA toolkit as well. What my point here is that an investment in learning a better Scrum, learning how to go to the next level will suit you well in your career, because we're building a reputation already that people who understand the toolkit are more effective than a typical certified Scrum Master. And of course, it makes complete sense to me because of the knowledge you have. And there's a journey here where the nice thing is, if you're an ACP, you can go right into the DA Senior Scrum Master. You do not need to start at the DA Scrum Master. And if you're brand new to Agile, you would start at the DA Scrum Master, which is Scrum Plus, teaches you far more than Scrum. And by the way, if you have another cert, like a SAFE cert or something, or a certified Scrum Master, you can go directly to the DA Senior Scrum Master. You don't need to start at the DA Scrum Master. And then, so to sum up the previous slide, the certifications, we have certifications targeted at improving your skills. Those would be the first 2. And then starting at the Senior Scrum Master and the coach, we get into team leadership and coaching, team coaching, and how to deal with complicated Scrum situations where you have many teams and you've got complex situations and dependencies between teams. That's what we teach in the DA Senior Scrum Master. And then when you get into the DA coach, it's about enterprise coaching and how do I get outside IT to make the other areas of the organization agile as well. And then lastly, the value stream consultant is the top tier certification, which really looks at the organization as a system or department and looks at the value streams, because often organizations and departments are structured vertically, portfolios, programs, and teams. And that's not how value flows in an organization. It flows horizontally. So we need to be able to look at that and look at ways to, as I said, get through the bottlenecks that you might have in your value streams. So that's a quick overview of Disciplined Agile, the 30-minute overview. I hope, first of all, I want to thank you for attending, and I hope that you take some time to invest and learn more. As I said, it's not disruptive to add DA into whatever you currently do. We teach you not only the techniques, but also Agile change management, because you're going to have to work with your team members and other teams to help convince them to try new techniques so that you can collectively spread agility throughout your organization. Okay, so that concludes my presentation today, and thank you for attending.